Good evening, Boxing Rampage.
New York's a state, my city's in. A man who I hate, I pity him like a branch Davidian. Got skills, got stamina, got hands of stone like the champ from Panama. Bodies drop from body shots, cause I could box. No need for clocks or karate chops. So if you wanna see who the best be, come and test me, come and test me, come and test me. Got stardom, clock gets stuck from the clock to the big bull yard in the South Bronx. My flavor's good, my flavor's good. Here, city, you're nothing but my neighborhood. New York, so nice, got named twice, and I'm harassing punks like Mike Tyson. And I'll break a
Yes, if you're asking yourself, who is this? This is Max Kellerman from HBO, most known for HBO. He is also on ESPN with his brother Sam Kellerman. Rest in peace, Sam. But moving forward, tonight on episode 8 of Boxing Rampage, I'm gonna be doing a solo show because JC took his day off. I think he'll be calling later on tonight to participate in the show, but he had things to take care of. On tonight's show, we're gonna be discussing our pound for pound list, our top 10 pound for pound list, and also some other little topics. But yeah, moving forward, I'm gonna talk to you guys about my personal pound for pound list, and we all know that pound for pound list is a myth. Like it's a myth list that we all consider who is the boxer of this day and age. Because basically, every like every year I think the pound for pound list change, and we want to start with my purpose of doing this is that we want to start with our pound for pound list as of now, as a starting of 2017. And by the way, Happy New Year's, guys. And then I want to compare it to our pound for pound list starting 2018. So we are hoping to be here with you guys for the next year and bring more shows to you guys. So yeah, moving on. I'm gonna hit up on my top 10 pound for pound list, and the way I'm gonna set it up is from 10 to number 1, and my number 10 is none other than Danny Swift Garcia, and most of people who know me will be impressed because I give Danny Garcia a lot of hate, but we gotta understand that he does have a really good resume, and due to his resume itself, I put him on the pound for pound list. I think that Danny Garcia hit stardom when he beat Ashley Theophane, and what so not was somewhat controversial decision. Some people might think that Theophane won, etc., but by the book he won, and he moved on. So his next big name after that was Nate Campbell and Kendall Holt. The Kendall Holt fight was another fight that was controversial, and it was split decision, I believe. And after that, he moved on to a title shot, fighting Eric Morales, the terrible Eric Morales, who were past prime. But in 10 years from now, nobody's gonna know that he was past prime. So he did got that title, and he moved on to fight Amir Khan and so on. His biggest win at 140 was, in my opinion, I think it was Matisse, who's one of my favorite fighter. And he did beat Matisse. I'll give him a lot of credit. I also give him a lot of credit for beating Amir Khan, because Khan was like beating him. Like I had Amir Khan winning all rounds before Danny Garcia caught him with that one punch and knocked him out. So yes, I have Danny Garcia as my number 10 for my pound for pound list. For my number 9, dun, 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 is Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao. And the reason why I have Manny Pacquiao, he's older now. And he entered 2016 after a loss to Mayweather and a shoulder injury. And after that, he moved on when beating Timothy Bradley on the third fight impressively, dropping him and beating convincingly in the score. And then he moved on to fight Jesse Vargas. And with his record itself, he's a Hall of Famer. He's still active, so that's why I also consider him to my pound for pound list. And It's a Hall of Famer. Manny Pacquiao is one of my favorite fighters of this generation, and the guy's always been exciting to watch. I mean, he's a legend. So I had to put him on my pound for pound list. So moving forward, I as number 8, dun, 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 I got Canelo Alvarez, Saul Canelo Alvarez. I think Canelo could have been more higher on this list, on my personal list, but he done a little ducking lately. He also been fighting smaller guys, and I remember his record. Like this guy been always he got like that weight advantage and then I don't like that. Like he been always fighting. I know that Triple G got critics for fighting Kell Brook lately, but Canelo he's a guy he been doing this for years. Like even when he moved from welterweight, he moved up. Like he fought a lot of guys that he at fight night he was bigger than them, and for me that taints his career. I remember that Miguel Cotto's brother gave him a run for his money on that fight, and the stoppage for that fight was kind of a little weird. But yeah, I mean, he should have been a little higher in my pound for pound list, but other than like Austin Trout, the great Money Mayweather, and Lara, I mean, who else is on that record? You could mention maybe Shane Mosley, but Shane Mosley was past prime, like old. But other than that, he don't really have names in his career, and I mean, as much as I could try to help him up, I can't. Like, the whole weight thing, like this guy's huge on fight night compared to his opponent. So I honestly I don't. I respect the kid. I think he's a mega superstar right now. He's a mega star, honestly, and he got the whole Mexicans on his back, and they support him, and it's great for boxing. But I cannot have him higher than that on my pound for pound list. And yeah, but moving to number 7, my number 7 on my pound for pound list will be Carl Frampton. And the reason why he's a upcoming star. He beat Scott Quigg last year for the title, so unified title, and then move on his next fight to fight Santa Cruz and beat Santa Cruz. So those two fight itself, I think that for me he was fighter of the year for 2016. But those two fight doing that itself, like had to put him. Just because of that, I just had to put him on my top pound for pound list, And yeah, I could be a little bit biased because I'm a Carl Frampton fan, but yeah. On my number 6, my pound for pound list is Lomachenko, and the reason why Lomachenko he saw his career late or a little late because he got a great amateur career. His amateur career is like insane. He only got like 1 loss. But yeah, for me, I had to put Lomachenko on my list. This guy made Nicholas Waltzer basically quit on the stool and just give up, pull a no mas, and yeah, basically just quit. Lomachenko only with 8 fights. I mean, he had moved up, and if I'm not mistaken, he's a champion in 2 different divisions. But yeah, he had a really bright amateur career. He also beat Roman Martinez with a KO that could be on your top 3 KO of the year for the year as well. Was a really nice punch, and yeah, just the movement himself. Like this guy, Martinez couldn't even see him. Like he had brought to the sport of boxing and excitement. I haven't felt this excited since Manny Pacquiao showed up to the game. So the kid, he's still promising. He only got 8 fights, and he's gonna bring some more. So that's why he's on my pound for pound list. He's my number 6. My number 5 on my top 10 pound for pound list is none other than Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford, champion on 135, 140, and did he fought at 130? I can't remember right now, but he got the likes of Gamboa, Hank Lundy on his record, Beltran, who just won impressively against Menor on his last fight. But just he's a upcoming superstar. This kid on the ring, like he shows skills that you don't see in any other boxer. Like I can't see nobody beating him right now. Like even when they talk about the Pacquiao fight, as much as I like Pacquiao, I think that's a real tough fight for Pacquiao, and I can't see Pacquiao beating Crawford right now. Like I was hype on Crawford for so long, and even though I felt that Gamboa won like the first 4 rounds of that fight, I think that I mean, yes, Crawford started a little slow, but man, you got to give the guy credit. This guy, honestly, right now on 140, he's top dog, and if you move up to 147, I think he beat most of them. I think he beat Danny Garcia. I think that he beat Sean Porter. Guys like Keith Thurman, he was a little bit more of a boxer, and he's a bigger 140. I mean, also Porter is a bigger 147, but Porter's not as talented as Keith Thurman is, and that's why Keith Thurman won the fight. I mean, he also chose a different brawling type of style to fight on that night. But if he would have chose a different style, his own style, I think it would have been a more the fight would have not been more exciting as it was. But yeah, I think he will give and also Spence. I don't think he could beat Spence. Maybe not. Spence got those shots that he fight like freaking Triple G, where he set up his punches and he knows how to pick his punches and where to set them, and you could see the impact of that. You could see how setting up his punches like that, he could hurt his opponent. He doesn't have like that one punch KO power, but he know how to break down his opponent. So it is a fight that I would like to see in the future. But in that case, I will favor Spence. But yeah, moving on. Yeah, so definitely I had to put Crawford in my top 10 pound for pound list and list him as number 5. Number 4 on my top 10 pound for pound list is Ramon Chocatico Gonzalez. A lot of people give him a lot of criticism, and the thing about I'm a light guy, so if I would have been a boxer, I would have been as small as Chocatico. I would have been fighting at 115. Or maybe at 112, who knows? Because I could get, like, if I put myself, like, I get down that low, like, But the thing about people don't realize with these lower weight classes is that the amount of punches that these guys they take on their career is a lot. And for a guy moving up from 105, I believe 108, 112, and 115. And being champion on all those weight division, and yeah, even though he didn't look as great as we wanted him to, he still got the job done, and he still won. And at the end of the day, on the books, he beat Quadras, and he just deserves to be on the pound for pound list. Like, if he would have like KO Quadras or look as impressive as he looked on his previous fight, I would have him in my number 1, but he didn't look that impressive, and it's like Canelo. Like people talk about, GG doesn't have a great resume, but if you think about it, nobody want to fight the guy. But then when you talk about Quadras, Chocolatico, you got Quadras calling him, Estrada calling him, Inoue calling him out. You got guys that are calling him out. Same thing with Canelo. You got the Charlos brothers. You got anybody right now want to fight with Canelo. 1, because he might be seen beatable, and 2, because it's a mega payday. The difference from Chocatico doesn't bring those lightweights like that. They don't really make much. They go from like 100 to like 400,000. The much I have seen them get paid. But yeah, I think he deserves to be on my top five. But yeah, moving on my found list for starting on 2017 on January, and like I said, we're gonna go back on January 2018, and we're gonna compare our pound for pound lists because these lists, like I said, they're a myth. Like they don't have any value, but everybody have a list to where you'll put a fighter into who's the best. And my number three is Andre Ward. And Andre Ward could have been number one if he would have decisively beat Kovalev. But for me, Kovalev won that fight. I think as much as Danny Garcia been gifted, Andre Ward was gifted that night because he's an American fighter. I think I had Kovalev winning 7-5 plus a knockdown, and you know a lot of people had Ward winning, but I think more people have Kovalev winning, and we got four hosts in this show, and only one of them had Ward winning. So, I mean, like I said, this is a mythical uh, list, and it go by the understanding of the fan itself. So, by my understanding, yeah, by the book he won, and that's why I have him as low as number three. I would have him if he would have won decisively, he would have been my number one, and if he would have lost, he would have been my number nine. But yeah, that's why we create these lists to see who's the best. And I think that if Ward would be decisively Kovalev, he should have been on number one on the list right now. Because you know, just by his record itself, the Super Six on 168, and moving on and beating the number one, the Crusher, the number one, the monster, the boogeyman at light heavyweight. That itself just put him on top of 10. He's really defensive. He got a really great style. If you don't want to get hit, if you want to be like a Mayweather type of fighter who don't get hit and control the pace of the fight. But yeah, I think that like I said before, if it's a myth to go into my understanding. He lost that fight, and that's why I have him number three. And then number two, I have Sergey Kovalev, the Crusher, because in my opinion, he did win that fight, and he's a guy who had majority of the belt, the WBA, the WBO, the IBF at light heavyweight, and he's just missing the WBC to be a unified champion. And in my eye, he beat the guy who was unbeatable, the second coming of Mayweather, basically in a lot of people's eyes, who is Andre Ward. And so he deserved to be in my number two. And the reason why I don't have him in my number one is because by the book he lost the fight. You know, the judges gave it to Ward, and I think due to that he cannot be in my number one. But and my number one, and yes, guys, I'm a sound biased, but I'm gonna break down why I have my number one, why I chose my number one pound for pound on the list. And my number one on my pound for pound list is none other than Triple G. And before y'all get all crazy, I'm gonna explain why. I brought it in before. When you got a resume and you're controlling, you're beating all your opponents convincingly. He's knocking them out. And then you look at the above division, and you got the top names. Gilberto Ramirez. You got Badu Jack. You got DeGale. And then you compare them three, and you put them in the ring with Triple G. Who will you pick, honestly? Definitely Triple G. And if you do the same, you go to 154, and you take. Right now, Canelo's still there, so let's put Canelo. Jamal Charlo, who just won an impressive win over J. Rock Williams, and Boo Boo Andrade, and you take those three and put them on a ring with Triple G. Other than Boo Boo, for me, Boo Boo giving him the hardest fight, I think he beat all three of them guys. So Another thing, by default, Sergio Martinez gave up his belt to not fight a guy. I mean, Sergio Martinez paid step aside money not to fight the guy. So if you, by default, Triple G beat him. Same with Cotto, and same with Canelo Alvarez. So if you would have those three names on Triple G's resume right now, wouldn't he be number one pound for pound? So you gotta put everything on consideration. Nobody wants to fight this guy. The only name that you could say, that really called him out is Andre Ward, but then Andre Ward contradicts himself because he moved up in weight, and then he said he couldn't make the weight anymore, and then supposedly the contract was for the end of 2016, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's as of right now, the only person that had said, okay, I'll fight him and Lara. But then the thing is that you gotta understand, a lot of people say, he should just fight, but if I think if it would have come to Triple G himself, he would have fought Lara. But the way this work, and a lot of people don't understand, his promoter makes money. His promoter is looking for the best purchase. And even when you think about, he didn't take the $15 million that so-called Canelo offered him, why he didn't take him, and now he should have taken him. Maybe Triple G would have taken him, but his promoter is a guy who makes money from him. So if you're a real estate guy and you got two buyers, you got a buyer that will buy you the house for $1 million, and you got the other one who will buy you the house for $1.5 million, and you are the real estate, and you make 10%, let's say, out of the as a commission. The guy who's selling it to you for buying it from you for $1 million will tell you, listen, I'll buy the house in 1 month. I'll have you money cash. And the one that says I'll give you 1.5 million, give me 3 months. Won't you wait for the guy that will give you a 1.5 million, knowing that it will come? Knowing that it's secure, knowing that he will give you a contract stating that he will buy you, or knowing that he will give you some heads up money. Everything is a business, and a lot of people forget that Triple G got a promoter, and he got a team. And I think that, and right now he's not like the cash cow. He doesn't generate money like Canelo does. So if Tom Lawford know that he can make more money in the long run, why not wait a little bit, or why not just go buy for a percentage instead of taking a flat fee? So you gotta put all that in consideration, and I do. I put everything in consideration. The guy is doing what we want to do. What we want to see as a fan. He's knocking everybody out. He's calling everybody out. He won all the belt. And if you go up and pull any opponent from 168. He'll beat them. If you go down and pull any opponent to 154, for me, by the eye test, he'll beat them. So, you might have a different opinion, but that's my opinion. And it's just my opinion. So, that's my top 10 pound for pound list. We're going to go to the calls, to the phone, and talk to the guys and see their pound for pound list. Also, I think seems it's going to be a little long show today. But another topic I wanted to hit before I went to the phone was waste of talent. Guys in boxing that had certain talent or early in the career, you saw that they would do good, really good, and then they moved on and they didn't meet expectation. And for me, it's funny because I live in Charlotte now, but I'm originally from New York. A guy that I used to have a lot of hope in, and because he was from Brooklyn, and and he looked at promising. It was Sab Judah, man, and this kid, he's just naturally talented. He's that one guy that he don't really, you know, if you take an average guy and take him to the gym, the average guy, in order to get to where Sab Judah would be without working out, he had to push himself. And so going back to my story, I'm from New York, and I get around, and every time I talk to people, I talk about boxing. I pull up the topic, and we start talking about boxing. And I was at work, and I met this guy, and we were talking about boxing. He told me how he used to like spar and go to the gym, and his father threw him in boxing, and he used to go to the gym, and he used to always see Sab Judah there. And he would tell me how like his teammates were like, "Hey Seb, don't you got a fight coming up?" And he would say, "Oh yeah, I ran yesterday." Like he never had that. Meaning he never had that like spirit inside of him that will push him to a limit. He didn't have that discipline in him that will push him to the limit. I think that if he would have been more disciplined, he could have been at the level as Mayweather. I think personally, I think for me, Sab Judah dropped Mayweather on that fight, and he showed in the ring. The guy gassed out after the sixth round. Usually, almost all his fight, he was a little bit chinny, but those stuff are things that you could work on. There's a guy like Andre Ward that been dropped a couple of times, and the way is to learn once you get dropped is to learn how to react, like learn from your experience. And there's guys that have losses in their career and they make it. So I think that he could have been a guy that could have gotten to superstardom if he would have pushed himself, if he would have been more disciplined. Another guy that, and this is a guy that put me into boxing, like made me a hardcore, was Joan Guzman. This guy, he was really talented, and I felt that Pacquiao actually, like, if you ask me, Pacquiao haven't ducked anybody, but I think that Pacquiao moved out of the division not to fight him, because this guy would have gave Pacquiao trouble, and I think that Guzman, if they would have fought back then, Guzman would have beat Pacquiao, in my opinion. But yeah, I think that Guzman was a great boxer. You should, if you've never seen any of his tape, go back and watch him. I mean, this guy's awesome, like freaking amazing. His talent. This guy was gifted, but he had a lot of trouble making weight. Like a lot of trouble making weight. He's a guy who will blow up in between fights, and similar to Adrian Broner. Like you see Adrian Broner now, and he's super big, and then he had to drop all that weight to go down to 140, and even 147. And it's really hard. It takes a shot in your body, and that's what Guzman went through on his career. And yeah, and this guy he only had like one loss, and it was to the end of his career when he was basically done, and he had moved up in weight a couple of times. So, for me, he's out of the Dominican boxers, I think he's one of the best that ever made it to boxing. Another guy that I mentioned before in the previous podcast with Paul Spadafora, who this guy also was silent, but he just had demons in his life that he got to take care of. I remember the whole Mayweather incident is the one that made him famous, but even his technical skills, like you just gotta look at this guy fighting. This guy is freaking nice. Like, oh man, like this guy is nice when it comes to boxing. Like, yeah, he really is defensive. He's like a little rangy, so the guy he knows how to use his skills, his range and everything. Like, he's a really good boxer, but he had his own demons, and if he would have been, disciplined like that as well, I think he would have been another guy who would have. Also, he was never with the best promoters or none of that stuff. So that's another thing, a lot. Well, you gotta put everything in perspective and understand it. So I think that maybe if he would have been more disciplined, maybe better promoters would have gotten to him and it would have been way better for him. But yeah, another guy that got a late loss in his career, but he was basically shot already. I think Adrian Broner, he's still there, he's still, but I think the problem with Adrian Broner, and I never saw him as skilled. I thought he had like the Canelo, I'll say the Canelo type of style in which he uses weight in the lower division to bully the smaller guys. But I think if he would have been managed a little bit better, and he would have moved up in weight a little slower. I mean, then again, he still is a four by the books. He didn't fight the toughest opponents. He didn't fight the toughest opponents, but by the books, he's a 4-time world champion. So I think he haven't done that bad yet. But I think he would have, if he would have not having those 2 losses that he had in his record, he might still been considered like the next Mayweather. I remember a lot of people, a lot of hype when he was at 130, talking about. I mean, 135 when he was at 135, talking about him being the next Mayweather. So a lot of people jump in the hype train, and he could have been right now. He could have been on the mention at 147. If he would have been, if his career would have been well managed, at 147, considered one of the top boxers right now. Another guy that I think is a waste of talent is Gamboa, Jurioski Gamboa. Another fighter that I think was a waste of talent is Jurioski Gamboa. Gamboa had a great amateur career. This guy's. He just fall into what it was a mix of promoter issue and cockiness. Like I mentioned before, he gave Terence Crawford a run for his money. Really talented, and he just promotional issues and sometimes when it comes to boxing, you gotta do sacrifices. I think, and these guys like Rigondeaux, Gamboa, they want to get the big money right away. It doesn't work like that. I think Rigondeaux also he great talent, but the guy, he doesn't fight enough. Like for you to have like a fan base, and mostly like with the style of Rigondeaux, that you're not really that exciting. You're kind of boring. You need to fight a lot, like at least 4 or 5 times a year. And mostly for those smaller weights like Rigondeaux, who's Rigondeaux is what, 122 right now. It's possible for them to fight 4 times a year at least. Or 3 if you want to be, if you want to take some breaks. But at that style, I mean, he should be fighting more often. Cause think about it, he asks for all this money, like to fight certain fights. If I'm not mistaken, Walter's got 300,000 to fight Lomachenko, and Rigondeaux, I don't know how much he was asking for the fight, but if you think about it, if you can't, it's like Danny Garcia said, why would I fight a big name, or his father said a big name, when you could get almost the same amount of money fighting a smaller guy, like a no-name guy. If he always complaining about the money, that he want big money, so if you get offered $500,000 to fight Lomachenko, and you don't want to take it, at least take 3 fights at 150, or 3 fights at $100,000 and make some money. Like, I don't know how these guys they want to make money just doing nothing and fighting once a year, or I don't know. But for me, like lack of activity is a waste of talent. But yeah, I mean, let's move on to the calls and see the guys' opinion on their pound for pound list, and see what they think about these guys who are a waste of talent on today's day of boxing. And I got Gian on the phone. What's up, John? Talk to me, brother.
What's going on, everybody? I just wanted to wish everyone a happy new year. I hope everyone has great health, and I wish everyone a prosperous and successful new year.
Happy New Year too, my friend. But going to the topics, what's your top 10 pound for pound list?
Now for the top 10, I'm not really a big top 10 pound for pound guy. However, when it comes to the top fighters in the sport, I have compiled a list. And the top 3 fighters, you can kind of shuffle around in there just because, with controversial decisions and your opinion and how you view the fighter and the weights and everything like that, it's kind of hard to put someone, in the number 1 spot and the 2 and the 3 spot. So, for the top 3, I have Chocolatito, I have Andre Ward, and I have Sergey Kovalev. After that, I have Pac-Man. After that, I'll have Triple G, Lomachenko, I'll have Terrence Crawford in there. Who else would I have? Canelo deserves a mentioning. Carl Frampton, and of course Timothy Bradley, who has one of the best resumes in the sport and continues to fight the top guys in the sport. He only has really a loss to one fighter in the game, and that's Pac-Man, and he's also on the list as well. Now, a lot of people are going to have a problem with Chocolatito being, number 1, being that his weight division is so much lower than, everyone else that's on this list. And it's hard to have, good competition in those lower weights, but he's managed to just pretty much blow out everyone at the top of his divisions. And he just moved up and he fought Quadras, and he did pretty well in the fight. He definitely got hit more than he has ever been hit in that fight. But, there's a lot of question marks surrounding that fight as far as Quadras being on drugs and whatnot. So, he still got the W. Now, Kovalev and Ward, I would say about 80% of the media had Kovalev winning that fight in a close fight, close competitive, but clear victory as far as a 12-round fight. Kovalev mathematically won more rounds and deserved the fight way more than Andre Ward. So that's why I don't have a problem with you flopping those two, those two positions. Pac-Man is, definitely a worthy mention after that. He's still at the top of his game. He's been in the game for so long. Who really beat him? Floyd Mayweather, and he's retired. So that's why I have Pac-Man in there. You got Triple G and Lomachenko. Triple G has faced the top guys in his division and has blown them out. A lot of people say, he hasn't faced a real middleweight or a real test. Honestly, Triple G has blown everyone out. So, Triple G, he deserves to be in the top 10 pound for pound. Lomachenko, the guy I don't even think he has 10 pro fights yet, and he's blowing top competition out of the water. If he fought Salido again, he would absolutely destroy him. Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford has been doing pretty well in his fights. He had a fight against Postal, and he just completely dominated him. He outboxed him. He was just a different class of fighter. And he had 2 other victories earlier in the year, but those were people that he was supposed to beat. You have Canelo. As much as I hate Canelo, he does have a pretty good resume. I mean, a lot of his fights that were close, I actually gave to the opponent. I gave the fight to Trout. I thought Lara schooled him, but as far as facts, he got the W. So you can put him on the list, even though he's ducking Triple G. Let's see what else we got. We got Frampton. Frampton had a great year. He's facing top competition, and and he's doing pretty well. And he's continuing to face top competition. He's fighting Santa Cruz again, and that's going to be a great fight. Now, I had that and the Keith Thurman fight at the fight of the year for me. And of course, Timothy Bradley. He's been in the game for a while now. Faced every top fighter you could possibly fight. Is afraid of nobody, ducks nobody. He's not afraid of a challenge. Continues to train hard. But he's at the latter end of his career. He only has one loss to Pac-Man. So, other than that, he's always looked good in his fights. Timothy Bradley's a workaholic. He works hard, and so he definitely belongs on that list.
I agree, and I see that you and I have a similar list, and it'll be really cool to like next year look at each other lists and see if it changed or not. And that was the purpose of doing this show. And before moving on to a topic that you mentioned, and it was the topic of the talented fighters that were there, and we saw them grow, but then they came up short. But before that, let's see what's JC. I got him on the line, and let's see what's his top 10 pound for pound list.
Hey, what's up, Flacco? Guys, I'm just want to give my top 10 pound for pound list and weigh in as well on fighters I feel that had more potential. Now, keep in mind, the pound for pound list are basically rating the best fighters all around, and I believe these lists change from year to year based on what a fighter has done recently to move them up or down the rankings. So without further ado, here's my list. At number 1, I have rated Triple G. Number 2, Vasily Lomachenko. Number 3, Roman Chocolatico Gonzalez. Number 4, Sergey Kovalev. Number 5, Andre Ward. Number 6, Terrence Crawford. Number 7, Carl Frampton. Number 8, Keith Thurman. Number 9, Canelo Alvarez. And number 10, Manny Pacquiao. And I want to go further into why I listed these guys in this particular ranking. To start off, and I don't feel anyone would question this, I feel that Gennady Golovkin deserves the number 1 rating. I feel he's a fighter that's underappreciated, and I honestly believe that once this fighter is gone, we're just going to miss him because I don't know of any fighter currently that has such a long streak of knockouts consecutively and is dominating in such fashion. And with this fight coming up now against Danny Jacobs, then I see there's no way he can't be the top pound for pound for 2017, hopefully, because Danny Jacobs is the most well-rounded boxer at 160 pounds. Number 2, I would place Vasily Lomachenko, just based on what he's done this year alone against Nicholas Walters, and also just his fighter IQ. I don't think that he's been tested yet. I know people talk about trying to match him and Rigondeaux. So he's just a fighter that has a lot of potential, and I can see it in his skill set. So I see him staying at the top. Number 3, obviously, Chocolatico. He has a lot of fights on his record. Obviously, he's has more than 40 fights. So in a situation like his, you look at just what he has, and he has had difficult fights, and some people like to criticize the fact that he wasn't being too defensive in his last fights, but someone like Chocolatico is someone that has a lot more to give in the future, but that's that. And coming in at number 4, Sergey Kovalev. I rate Sergey Kovalev in full number 4 and Andre Ward number 5 respectively, being that they had a matchup this year, but it was such a closely contested fight that I don't see their rankings moving up or down really, because there's still a lot to be said, and depending on how you judge a fight, it could have gone either way. I personally think that Kovalev won that fight, but either they need to have a rematch, or Ward needs to find different opposition, or Kovalev needs to find different opposition to move him up in the rankings. At number 6, Terrence Crawford had a great year. Had 2 big wins. One against Victor Postal, which is a tough opposition. He was actually the number one, actually number 1 or 2, depending on how you view it, light welterweight candidate for the belt. Terrence Crawford has a lot more to give. I know he's had his run-ins with the law lately, so hopefully he can stay focused and disciplined in his craft, and nothing else happens to him. At number 7, I have rated Carl Frampton. Carl Frampton has had a great year. Pretty much, I rate this based on the most recent wins he's had. You have to look at the fact that he has his win over Santa Cruz and Scott Quigg, 2 undefeated guys. Obviously, this is a guy who was under the radar, but he's definitely moved up the ranks. He's set to have his rematch with Santa Cruz soon, so I think that if he's able to beat Santa Cruz again, then that'll just further stamp his legitimacy in the rankings. Number 8, I have rated Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman has had great wins this past year. Between the fight with Sean Porter and the fight with Robert Guerrero, I think those are the most action-packed fights he's had. Definitely within the welterweight division, I see him ranked as the number 1 guy currently. He's set to fight Danny Garcia in March, so hopefully if he's able to get past him, then for sure he'll move up the rankings a lot more and, of course, be the undisputed welterweight champion. I rate Canelo Alvarez at number 9 on the list. He's still up there in the pound-for-pound rankings, but based on his performance at year 2016, he's only fought Amir Khan and Liam Smith. Khan, who was obviously not a natural 154, 55-pounder, whichever weight Alvarez is fighting at currently. And then Liam Smith, who, truth be told, he was the underdog in the fight and not a fighter that much people knew. So he was expected to win Canelo Alvarez. So for me, he's moved down in the rankings. He needs to fight someone legitimate 2017 or have some really good fights to stay within the rankings. But if his level of opposition is not as good this year, then I see him getting out of the top 10 list. Rounding out, number 10 is Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao, obviously the biggest fight of his career was against Floyd Mayweather Jr. back in 2015. When it comes to him fighting Timothy Bradley in April, I think April. I think it was his 3rd fight against him. I don't see that fight as moving his legitimacy up or down on the list due to the fact that he's already fought him, and obviously between Top Rank and his old HBO deal, the options of fighters that he has to fight is limited. He fought Jesse Vargas, obviously, and beat him, and obviously it's a fighter that he was supposed to beat. The only reason I really see him being on the top 10 pound-for-pound list is due to the fact he's been on the list for so long, for so many years, that he's up there in the rankings. But I think, personally, this will probably be Manny Pacquiao's last year on the list. I don't see him doing much more than what he's already done, unless, he should happen to fight Mayweather again, which would probably bump him up in the list. But I see Manny Pacquiao on his way out of the pound-for-pound list.
Awesome, man. Great analysis. And all 3 of us had really similar guys on our top 10 pound-for-pound list. I noticed that you had Thurman, I had Garcia, your favorite guy, and Gian had Bradley, who's I consider one of his favorite welters weight. So, yeah, man, I didn't really want to interrupt you. But, bro, man, I'm not going to give you another day off, man, because I just noticed that we were sounding like a telenovela up in here. But it's all good. Moving forward, let's talk about those underachievers that we had mentioned before, and I'll give the platform to Gian. Talk to me, Gian.
Now, I like this next topic that you wanted to talk about is wasted talent. I think you kind of relate to the guy just because, you guys are both Dominican. Yoan Guzman, bro. This guy, I mean, he used to have his old nickname was El Pequeño Tyson or something like that, like the mini Tyson. Back when he was an up-and-coming fighter, he was knocking everybody the fuck out. He was great. It was fun to watch. This guy would throw like 9 left hooks consecutively, like 9 in a row. He was insane. As he got older, he got lazier. He blew up in weight. He blew up in between his fights. He wasn't disciplined, and he ate his way out of being a professional boxer. He is such a waste of talent. This guy naturally has so much ability. I mean, he was so slick. I remember watching I think the Soto fight years ago, and I mean, this guy would literally, it looked like he was just having fun and toying with Humberto Soto, who's a top fighter. He's been around for, crafty vet. He's just ducking, dodging, left, right against the ropes, slapping him with punches, landing hard shots. And I honestly feel that he chased Pac-Man out of 130. I honestly, in my heart, truly feel that way. And unfortunately, then Pacquiao went up to 135, and Guzman kind of fell off the face of this earth. He stopped training in between fights. He kept blowing up, and that led to his demise as a fighter.
Definitely, man. I had mentioned it before you got in the call, but I totally agree with what you said. I like how you broke it down, and I completely agree, man. I think that Pacquiao, Little Tyson, as they used to call him, would have been a great fight. But yeah, man, it's a shame, man. I think that we Dominican, when we hit fame and we think we made it, we get lazy and laid back and a little bit cocky, I guess. But I mean, overall, nowadays, I seen him his interviews, and he became humble. He's always like in the corners of the upcoming new Dominican stars. He's on the corner of El Abejon and a couple other guys, helping him out basically. But yeah, he great talent, man. That could have been better. But what about you, JC? What you got, man? Your list of guys that had the talent but they didn't take advantage of it.
My list is short, being that the boxers I decided to speak about are boxers that are very inactive or haven't declared retirement, but have been inactive for at least a year, to where I don't believe they're coming back. And if they come back, they're not coming back for title fights or any major showcase fights. So the 3 boxers I have in mind are Victor Ortiz, Zab Judah, and Jonah Guzman. For me, Victor Ortiz had the potential to be such a great welterweight champion. Many natural abilities, had great hand speed, great counter puncher, good foot movement, a lot of angles, very naturally gifted, very aggressive. The only thing that he lacked was the mental fortitude to take it there, being that when he was tested against superior opposition, or not even superior opposition, but opposition that would fluster him, that's when he would fold. And I'm not saying he's like I say, he's a world champion. He won the WBC belt at one point in his career. But based on the skill sets and the gifts he possessed, I believed he could have taken his career a lot further. And it's just a shame that, there are other guys that have no natural ability and are able to do so much more with their career against, guys that, I mean, for example, and I don't want to go off on a tangent here, you look at a guy like Marcos Maidana, guy who's pretty much a brawler and was able to do so much with his career. I believe had a much better, more lucrative career based on the fights that he had. Second guy on my list is Zab Judah, Brooklyn native. Yep. Zab Judah was a 2-time champion, contested at a light welterweight and welterweight. I think the wheels fell off of Zab Judah was when he fought Costa Tszyu, pretty much when he started wobbling and whatnot. With Zab Judah, he has the mental fortitude of a great fighter. He has all the skill sets. The thing was that Judah, I just felt that he had too much to prove to people that really didn't matter. I think that maybe with him, he was trying to please too much, maybe the people around him, and wouldn't focus on his craft and things like that. When you're a fighter, you have to sacrifice so much. So a guy like Zab Judah, if he would have been more disciplined, I think he would have probably would have been a 3-time champion, or probably would have been a champion for a much longer time. But based off of that, I'm not saying he's not a good fighter. He's a great fighter, but just looking at the potential he's had and what he's done, he could have been much greater. And the last fighter on my list is Joan Guzman. Joan Guzman, a.k.a. Little Tyson, is a fighter from the Dominican Republic. This guy had all the gifts. And he was a fun fighter to watch, very elusive, very defensive, aggressive, knew how to counter, had everything, knew how to psych his fighters out. The problem with Guzman was really the weight issue. Obviously, with his, especially in boxing, you want to try to keep your weight down as much as possible, because obviously in this sport, if you have weight as an advantage, you can overpower your other fighters. But in his case was the weight issue. I don't know if it was anything to do with, naturally he couldn't keep his weight down, or maybe just his eating habits. But a fighter with that kind of ability, couldn't make weight. I recall in the Ali Funeka fight, I think he couldn't make weight, and they had to cancel the fight for that, or at least delay it. So things like that, when you can't make weight, just takes so much more away from your potential. Obviously, if you would have been not a lot younger, but in this case would have had more opportunities early in his career, maybe it would have been a different situation. But I feel with someone like him, he could have done so much more with his career.
Man, you gotta understand, he was eating mango, plátano, and all that in between fights, and drinking a lot of Presidente, you know what I mean? But yeah, man, thank you for your analysis. I appreciate, you took the time at least for calling. What about John? You got anything for me, man?
Now, I wanted to ask you guys a question. I'm not sure if you're going to save it for another week's topic, or if you want to talk about it now real quick. But I want to know who you think is going to win that fight between DeGale and Badou Jack. I just have this feeling that Badou Jack is going to come up with a W. He's just much more of he fights in the pocket. He's right there. He does a lot of dipping, the dodging, left and right movement, lateral movement. And I do feel that with the constant pressure of him being there right in front of DeGale, I think DeGale is going to try and coast and try to, use the ring and, circle around him. But I really do feel that he's just not going to let him get away with that. And I feel like the pressure he's going to cave to the pressure, and he's going to take a beating in there. So I have Badou Jack by unanimous decision.
Yeah, I mean, that's a topic that we're saving for next week, but I'll give my 2 cents on it real quick, just to preview some of the topic for next week. I mean, man, I still haven't break down that fight like in my head. I see it really as a 50-50 fight, basically, depending on what DeGale we see. Because the thing about Jack is that he been KO before, so he got that suspicious chin. But then again, DeGale doesn't have all that power. But I don't know, man. If DeGale come like using his jab and fighting how he used to fight before, I think he'll win. But if he fights like he's been fighting lately, dropping his hand like Roy Jones, and doing all these fancy shit, I could agree with you, and I could see Badou Jack winning. But yeah, like I said, it's a topic for next week, man. And but then again, thanks again for calling. I'm gonna conclude the show. Jesse, you got anything for me, man?
I appreciate you guys for having me. Hopefully next week we can get things back to normal. Flacco, it was a pleasure talking to you guys. Gian, pleasure's all mine, and hope to hear from you soon. Take care, guys. Bye.
And this guy seemed like he was at work. But thanks for calling, man, and thanks for at least participating. I understand your situation, and hopefully, yeah, next week you could come through and we could do the show from the studio, the mini studio. But I guess this conclude our show. Thanks again, guys, for listening, for being part of the show, supporting Boxing Rampage. Follow us on Instagram at Boxing Rampage, on iTunes at Boxing Rampage. Email us at boxingrampage1@gmail.com just to give your thoughts, any ideas for the show, anything that could help us improve. We want it all. We want the critics. We want the love. Thanks again, guys. Happy New Year's, and thank you for listening. Until next episode, Boxing Rampage.